Monday morning. It's back. The NBA, that is. Well, it never really left. You know how I do, though. Kind of take it a little easy over on the weekends, recharge so that I could be ready to go for you guys on Monday morning. So thank you so much for joining me this morning. If you're live with me right now, good morning to you. It's good to see you. We've got a few people up in the chat already. Kevin, Jared, Juan, George, Josh, William, all joining me this morning. And if you're catching us on the replay, well, good morning to you too, or afternoon, or good evening, whatever time you happen to be watching this. Thank you so much for tuning in and continuing to support these live streams. Hopefully, we lead you to some winning picks and more money in your pocket. If you've never been here before, my name's CJ. Check out the description of this channel. You can go over to the about, kind of get an idea what the channel is about. But basically, I do player prop picks. Currently, we're focused on the NBA, and our site of choice is PrizePicks, where you could choose the overs and unders on your favorite players and props. Everything from points to rebounds to assists to three-point makes. So if you don't play on PrizePicks yet, go ahead and check them out. PrizePicks.com. Use promo code Curry to get a 100% instant deposit match on your first deposit up to $100. I will leave a link down in the description of this video. But to my knowledge, it's the only site where you can miss a pick and still profit, still make money. So kind of a neat way to play your favorite NBA player props. So definitely check out PrizePicks today. And good morning to the rest of you that are joining. Markel's up in the house. Kevin is up in here as well. So it's good to see all of you. We got 11 games today to talk about, guys. 11 NBA games. So it's a massive slate. Let's go ahead, not waste a whole lot more time on announcements and such. But if you haven't subscribed yet, do so now. Hit the like on this video. We've been hitting 100 likes in most of the videos. Not all, but most of the videos. So let's try and keep that streak going as we lock in on some hopefully profitable player props today. So let's go ahead down to the line here. We got Boston Celtics at Cleveland Cavaliers, 7 p.m. tip-off. For Boston, big news, Jaylen Brown obviously still sits with that hamstring injury. Over on the Cleveland side, Colin Sexton out, Kevin Love out, and Lauri Markkanen all out for the Cavaliers. So some pretty big injuries for Cleveland. Also at 7 p.m., Sacramento Kings at Detroit Pistons. The biggest news, Kelly Olynyk, he'll be missing a few games with a knee sprain. The New Orleans Pelicans at the Washington Wizards. Zion Williamson continues to sit, but we did get Brandon Ingram's return back to the lineup for the Pels, so that's good news. Hachimura continues to sit. Bertans out, and big news, Bradley Beal is still out for Washington, so bumps up to the likes of Spencer Dinwiddie, Kyle Kuzma, and company. 7:30 p.m. Orlando Magic at Atlanta Hawks. For Orlando, Jalen Suggs is on the game time decision list, so that's kind of a big one. Also on the list, Wendell Carter Jr., no Markelle Fultz, Jonathan Isaac for Orlando. They continue to sit. DeAndre Hunter for Atlanta, probably the biggest one there. He's a game time decision. Then at 7:30, we've got the Indiana Pacers at New York Knicks. TJ Warren, really the only big injury news from this one. Nerlens Noel, a game time decision for the Knicks. 8 p.m. Miami Heat at Oklahoma City Thunder. We've got Jimmy Butler as a game time decision. Definitely want to be mindful of that injury news because he is a major player, obviously, for this Miami Heat team. 8 p.m. Denver Nuggets at Dallas Mavericks. We've got Jamal Murray as a game time decision. Michael Porter Jr. already ruled out for this one. He'll continue to sit for the Denver Nuggets. And then on the Dallas side, we've got Maxi Kleber. He is out. Houston at Memphis, no notable injury news to talk about there. Phoenix at Minnesota, DeAndre Ayton's going to be a game time decision. Dario Saric is out. 10 p.m. Toronto Raptors at Portland Trailblazers. A lot of different names to consider here. Pascal Siakam, Achua, Van Vliet, all game time decisions. Boucher, a game time decision for Toronto. And then over on the Portland side, obviously the biggest one's going to be Damian Lillard, who is a GTD at the moment. So keep an eye on Dame Dollar. And then at 10:30 p.m., the late night hammer, Chicago Bulls at Los Angeles Lakers. For the Bulls, we've got game time decision status for Kobe White and Nikola Vucevic. And then over on the Lakers side, LeBron James continues to sit out, and he's really the only noteworthy injury for the Los Angeles Lakers. So there you go, 11 games. A lot of different ways we can go here with these player props. We're going to try and narrow down to the best props, kind of block out some of the noise. And the way that we're going to do that is going to be props.cash. Props.cash is changing the way that I do player prop research. If you haven't checked them out yet, you can do so by using the link down below. It's just $19.99 a month. It gets you access to NFL, NBA, and NHL So you get all the sports for less than $20 a month. Not a bad way to go. Saves you a lot of time. So we're going to use them today like we've been doing in all of these live streams and try to narrow down the scope here and block out some of that noise and just land on the good picks. So good morning to everybody who is just now joining the stream. What's up to Jeremy? He says, this guy is aces. He's making me a fortune. Well, that's good. Good to hear, Jeremy. Good to hear. Anthony's up in here. Good morning to you, Anthony. Logan, thanks for joining. EDOT, I hope I said that right. What up, though? What up to you, EDOT? I'm going to flex for you, man, because you flexed at me. All right, let's go ahead and get it started, guys. Let's look at some of the high hit rates. So Dillon Brooks, Memphis Grizzlies, 18.5 points, a 100% hit rate. Now, Dillon Brooks just came back from Memphis, so he's going to be kind of a weird one. I'm going to skip over him for right now until we get more of a sample size on him. Doesn't have a whole lot of games in his game log, maybe even just one game, but I know he just came back from Memphis, so not really interested in looking at him. We got Harrison Barnes, though, at 17.5 points. He's right around 77%, meaning he goes over 17.5 points per game in 77% of the games this season, but currently he's rocking the minus 116 to go under, meaning they are taking the under. They're putting their money on the under on Harrison Barnes. But let's talk about him. He's facing the Detroit Pistons tonight. Quick glimpse here at his game logs. You can see 3 out of the last 5, he has gone over 17.5 points. And when he does go over, he doesn't go over by just a little bit. I mean, he's got 21 in here, 28, 22. So he's got 3 games where he's went for 20 or more in his last 5. So let's take a look at Harrison Barnes. He's been a guy that we've been clicking a lot of overs on this season. Maybe tonight is another opportunity to go back to the well here on Harrison Barnes. He was up at 18.5 points at one point. They have now lowered him down to 17.5, which is a much friendlier number. Maybe we go back to the overs here. So let's look at the last 10 games here for Harrison Barnes, a 70% hit rate. 7 out of his last 10, he has gone over 17.5 points. There's a handful of games here. Dallas, Charlotte, and San Antonio, where he went under 17.5. But most of the time, guys, he's sitting up here around 20 points per game, as you can see. Lots of green here. So 21.4 points per game in his season averages, 19.3 in his last 10, but just 18.4 in his last 5. So you see those numbers are starting to trend downward. They're starting to go down. So that's not good if we're looking to take the over. We want to see him like trending upwards, right? But not the end of the world. Let's go ahead and look at the matchup here against the Pistons. In terms of points allowed, they rank 14th. Not a totally difficult matchup here for Harrison Barnes. They rank dead last in field goal percentage allowed, so the shots that are going up against them are going in at a high hit rate. Three-pointers allowed, total three-pointers allowed, middle of the pack at 15th, three-point field goal percentage allowed 30th, so the three-pointers that go up, again, are hitting at a high rate, 17th in free throws allowed, and 13th in small forward defense. So I'm not seeing any red here, meaning this doesn't look like a difficult matchup for Harrison Barnes, but not really a great matchup either, I guess you could say. 215 point total with a spread of just 4.5 points. So I wish the total was a little bit higher. 220, 225, 230 would be amazing, but we'll take the 215. But we look at his minutes here. They're a little bit down in his last 5 games at 35 minutes versus 36 in the previous games. Field goal attempts sitting right around 11 field goal attempts in his last 5 games. That looks like a little bit of a decline once again from the season averages of 13 and the last 10 games where he's sitting around 12. So his shots are starting to kind of come down a little bit. And then his three-point attempts. He was attempting right around 6 for the season, around 5 in his last 10 games. Well, those have come down to just 4 attempts in his last 5. So everything kind of seems to be trending downwards for Harrison Barnes here. Let's get you a projection, though, because we can use these projections to help us decide whether we should be going over or under here. So let's see what Number Fire thinks. They got him at 15.3 points, guys. They got him going under 17.5 by over 2 points. So, yeah, this might be one to avoid. You might want to take the under on Harrison Barnes if you trust these projections. There's other projection sites out there, though. If you want to check those, you could check like RotoWire's another one. There's another site called Betting Pros that has some player projections out there for free. So if you're looking for any type of predictive tools, you can look at Number Fire, RotoWire, Betting Pros, and kind of get an idea, kind of compare the different sites and see where everybody lands. But that kind of gives you an idea on a high hit rate guy, Harrison Barnes at 17.5 points. Again, been covering this about 70 to 77% of the time, but is a betting favorite to go under at -116. Good morning to everybody, up to 53 viewers in the live stream. We've got Sed up in here, Alexis is in the house, we've got Ronald up in here, Nick's in the house, J-Red's up here again, Freggy, what's happened, Freggy? He says, you the best. Nah, you the best. Thank you for tuning in. Please drop a like on this stream if you haven't yet. We're going for 100 likes once again, guys. We got to start the week off right with 100 likes. The line's at 99.5, and I'm taking the over. So let's like this, man. Let's get it up there. Mr. Mittens is back in the house. Peyton's in here this morning. Protege is up in here. What's going on, Protege? Craig's back. Good to see you, Craig. And Sethi joining us in chat this morning. So there you go. We talked Harrison Barnes. Let's see what else we've got here. We've got Tyrese Halliburton, another Sacramento King prop. 13.5 points, 72.7% hit rate. Currently, though, again, he is a -122 to go under. So not a lot of optimism for these Sacramento Kings and their points props this morning. Looks like a lot of people are putting their money in on the under. We also have Domantas Sabonis at 15.5 points, 71.4% hit rate. He's currently a -116 to go over. Do we have him up on the PrizePicks board? Because that's kind of a nice number, 15.5. I'm not seeing him. No Domantas Sabonis? Wow. We got Malcolm Brogdon for the Indiana Pacers, Miles Turner, but no Sabonis. Okay. Fine, be that way. Brandon Ingram, 20.5 points, 71.4% hit rate. Do we have BI up on the board? Let's talk about him. He's at 20.5 points. He's been injured, but has recently come back here for the New Orleans Pelicans. So maybe he could be a sneaky way to go, take an over on him, potentially against the Washington Wizards. Let's go take a look at Brandon Ingram. In his last 10 games, guys, at 20.5 points, he's gone over in 5 out of 7. So 5 out of 7. So in his last 7 games, covered in 5 out of those games. 71% hit rate, 24.1 points per game over the course of the season. In his last 5, that number has come down slightly, but not too much, 23.6 points. Even the games where he missed, against Atlanta, against Memphis, he had 20 and 19 respectively. So he's really only had one recent game, and that was against Memphis where he drops the 19. Maybe he comes back tonight against Washington. Currently a -112 to go over 20.5. This number seems a little soft to me, but, he is coming off of an injury. He's been sitting out for a little bit, so maybe there's a little bit of rust here. Now, against this Washington team, they're a pretty tough defense. You wouldn't think of the Washington Wizards as being a difficult team, but look at them. 11th in points allowed, 5th in field goal percentage allowed, 1st in three-pointers allowed, 1st in three-point field goal percentage allowed, and 21st in free throws allowed, and finally 12th against small forwards. So not a very easy matchup here on paper for Brandon Ingram. Now we look at the spread here. It is a 4.5 point spread for the Washington Wizards, just 208 implied points. So not a really high total for this game, unfortunately. Now, in his first game back, he played just 29.5 minutes against Memphis. Obviously, that is a big step down versus the previous games in his game log. So there's some risk here. Maybe they're easing him back into the lineup. Maybe they're easing him back into a full run of minutes. But he got less than 30 minutes in his first game back against Memphis. Also worth noting, his field goal attempts were down against Memphis after sitting out for a couple of weeks. And then we look at his three-point attempts, also down. So kind of a correlation there, right? If he's out on the court less, the less field goal attempts he'll have, the less three-point field goal attempts he has. So everything kind of goes down when he's not out on the court as much. So let's go ahead and take a look at the projection here for Brandon Ingram and see what Number Fire has to say. And they've got him projected for 20.9 points, really, really close to 21 points. So maybe leaning toward the over isn't such a bad idea after all on Brandon Ingram, but there is a little bit of risk here as he is still working his way back into game shape, let's just say. So we've talked about a couple of overs. Let's go down the list here on props.cash, and thank you to the 70 viewers in here right now. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's look at the low hit rate guys, the guys who are not covering their point prop at a very high clip. So we got Aaron Holiday for Washington, 11.5 points, a 0 24% hit rate. We're not going to get him up on the PrizePicks board today, unfortunately, and for a good reason. You can kind of see why, right? The under would just be way too easy. And PrizePicks, they don't want to make it too easy on us. There's nothing easy, nothing free out there in this sports prop betting world. So Isaac Okoro recently made his return for the Cleveland Cavaliers, 8.5 points, just a 28.6% hit rate. Daniel Gafford, 9.5 points, 30% hit rate. He is up on the PrizePicks board, but he's up there at 8.5 instead of 9.5. At 9.5, I would say that, yeah, you strongly consider taking the under. 8.5 might be a little bit more tricky. So I don't know. I'd kind of avoid that one. Who else do we have here? De'Aaron Fox sitting at 21.5 points, around 31% in terms of hit rate, currently a minus 114 to go under. Let's talk about him. I know they've also kind of rounded him down, taking him down from 21.5 down to 20.5, but let's look at De'Aaron Fox for a second here, because that might be an interesting way to go. So if you could get him at 21.5, good for you. Unfortunately, PrizePicks, again, is on top of their game. Always a step ahead of us, aren't they? Just seems like it, doesn't it? At 21.5, just a 30% hit rate. Now, if we bump this down to 20.5, let's see how things change. It goes up a little bit. Goes from a 30% hit rate up to a 40% hit rate. So he gets 10 more percentage points in terms of hit rate when we shift things from 21.5 to 20.5. But looking at the season averages, 19.8 points per game puts him under 20.5, and his last 10 going under 20.5, sitting at 20.2. But in his last 3 games, his scoring averages are up, but a lot of that has to do with this huge 37-point output against the San Antonio Spurs. I mentioned earlier, at 21.5 points, he's currently sitting at a minus 118 to go under. So if you could get him at 21.5, I would say go under. At 20.5, things become a little more tricky, a little more difficult. Looking at this matchup, though, against the Spurs, 14th in points allowed, 30th in field goal percentage allowed, 15 in three-pointers allowed, 30th in three-point field goal percentage allowed, 17th in free throws allowed, and 29th in point guard defense. So not an overly difficult matchup here for De'Aaron Fox. Not seeing any red. So this one at 20.5, man, it's dicey. It might be one where you just kind of fade it if you don't have a good read on it. And I don't really have a good read on it because the matchup's looking good. Now, if he was at 21.5, I'd feel more likely to kind of take the under, but at 20.5, I feel like this could go really either way. And so I'm not seeing much of an edge or advantage. He's getting about 34 minutes per game, about 18 field goal attempts per game, so he's getting plenty of shots up, not really worried about his playing time or his field goal attempts. Let's see what Number Fire has to say. I will be interested to see what their projection is for De'Aaron Fox. He's at 21 points, so putting him right in between the 20.5 on PrizePicks and the 21.5 out on your favorite sports book. So for me, this is going to be a fade. I'm not touching it. I'm going to go somewhere else. But that's enough about points. Let's go ahead and move on to the next category. Let's look at some rebounds. Let's see who's been cleaning the glass and who hasn't. Dillon Brooks, once again, just re-entered the lineup for Memphis. So he's got a hit rate right now at 3.5 boards of 100%. But we're going to kind of throw that out until we get a larger sample size. We talked about Brandon Ingram, who's just now kind of coming back into the rotation, into the mix for the New Orleans Pelicans, so we're not really going to go there either. Let's look at Ja Morant. Is he up on the PrizePicks board at 5.5 boards? He is. He's down here against Houston at 5.5. So this is one of the rare props that PrizePicks has blessed us with, where they haven't rounded it up, where they haven't excluded it from today's board. So Ja Morant at 5.5 rebounds, a 77% hit rate, also a betting favorite at minus 134 to go over. So far, the over looking very good here for money-making Morant. That's right, Triple M, Ja Morant. Let's go take a look at his rebounds tonight and see how things are shaping up in this matchup. So we've got Memphis and Houston. Should be more of an up-tempo game here. Should be plenty of shots going up and therefore more rebound opportunities. So we look at his last 10 games, a 9 out of 10 hit rate. 90%, guys. 90% in his last 10 games. You're seeing a whole lot of green here. The only team that he failed to go over 5.5 rebounds against was the Miami Heat. falling short at just 4 rebounds. So this is a prop that I absolutely love here at first glance. 6.5 rebounds per game over the course of the season. His rebounds are also trending upwards in his last 10 games, 7.3. And finally, in his last 5 games, up to 8 rebounds. No previous matchups this season, or at least not in his last 10 games against this Houston Rockets squad, so we don't really have anything to compare to. So let's move down. Let's look at the matchup against the Rockets. They rank 15th in rebounds allowed, so middle of the pack, not overly difficult, not a soft matchup, just kind of average. 20th in offensive rebounds and 13th in defensive rebounds and 27th in point guard defense. Pretty nice total, 218.5 expected points, but there is some blowout risk here as Memphis is a minus 11, meaning an 11-point spread. They're favored to win by 11 points. You got to be careful of the blowout. If Morant gets it done in like 3 to maybe 3.5 quarters of gameplay, then, we'll feel good about that. But we can't have a blowout here. We need this game to stay as close as possible for as long as possible for Morant to hit the over. Now, he's getting about 35 minutes per game in his last 5 games. Pretty consistent when you look at his full season, last 10 and his last 5. He's just been hovering right around 35 minutes per game. And then you got to get an idea of the breakdowns of the rebounds. The total rebounds are the numbers that you see on top here. So like here, 12 rebounds, and then the green represents how many of those rebounds were offensive rebounds. So he gets 1 to 2, maybe offensive rebounds per game on average. So there you have it for Ja Morant. This is looking like a great prop. The only real concern in this case is probably going to be, does the game stay close for long enough where Ja Morant can pull in at least 6 rebounds for us? I kind of think it does. I think it's worth rolling the dice on. Let's get a projection for him. They got him at 4.6 rebounds. Of course they do. So they've got him going under 5.5 according to NumberFire. So once again, check various sources. I mentioned RotoWire being one. You can also check Betting Pros just to kind of compare them against NumberFire and see how the projections match up across the different sites out there. But I would probably roll the dice just based on the historical data. The guys went over in 9 out of 10 games. Kind of have to roll with it here, right? It's just looking too good for me to pass up. Oh, we got our little spammer bot friend up in here promoting the, naked people. So good morning to you too, I guess. Thank you so much for everybody who's joined in the stream. Up to 80 viewers. What's your favorite prop so far? For me, it's probably going to be this Ja Morant rebound prop. Liking the way this one's shaping up so far. Let's talk about another one here. We got Saddiq Bey at 5.5 boards with a 75% hit rate, a minus 138 to go over. They've already rounded this one up here on PrizePicks. They got him at 6 boards. Now, in his last 5 games, he's gone for 6 or more rebounds in 3 out of 5. He has covered this prop in 3 straight games. What's up to you, Antoine? Thanks for joining. What's up, Focus? So he's doing a good job here in his last 3 games, getting a lot more rebounds, 9, 7, and 8 in his last 3. So let's take a look at Saddiq Bey real quick. Let's see if maybe this one's another one that we want to think about going over on, or maybe we just leave this one alone too, being that PrizePicks has already kind of switched it up on us. Let's go down here, find Saddiq Bey. He's at 5.5 boards on your favorite sports book. He's gone 7 of 10 in covering this prop at 5.5 boards. But if we move this from 5.5 to 6 rebounds, the hit rate drops down to 67%, just a 6.49 in terms of going for at least 6 or more rebounds. So pretty decent overall. He's really just got 3 games where he's went under 6 rebounds. For the season, 7.1 rebounds per game in his last 10, 6 rebounds per game in his last 5, also 6 rebounds per game. Now, if you could get him at 5.5, you're seeing a lot of action come in on the over at minus 140. If we go down and we look at this matchup here, not an overly difficult one in terms of rebound props. Rebounds allowed, the Sacramento Kings ranked 19th, so not terrible. 22 in offensive rebounds allowed and 16th in defensive rebounds allowed. So overall, I think this is a pretty plus matchup in terms of rebounds for Saddiq Bey. It looks like one that you could possibly take the over on and keep riding this hot streak that Saddiq Bey's got going on here. In the last 5, his minutes are sitting right around 33.5. That represents an uptick versus the last 10 in the full season. And if we go down here and look at his rebounds, you can kind of get an idea how the rebounds are made up. He gets a lot of offensive rebounds, surprisingly. Look at this. 3, 6, 4, 5. So he's pulling in a lot of offensive boards. Kind of surprising. I don't know if this is sustainable or not. Maybe this is a little bit of a fluke here. The fact that a lot of his rebounds, like 7 rebounds total, right? 6 of those were made up on offensive rebounds. 5 rebounds total, 4 of which were offensive. 9 rebounds, 5 of which were offensive. So he's been on the offensive rebounds quite a bit here. So that's kind of interesting. You don't see that a whole lot. Let's pull up a rebound prop, a projection here for Saddiq Bey and see what Number Fire has to say. They got him going for 6.1 boards tonight, guys. So if you're getting him in PrizePicks at 6, you probably lean toward the over. Worst case scenario, maybe this ends up being a tie, a push, in other words. But if you could get him at 5.5, maybe you don't play on PrizePicks, you play somewhere else, and you get him at 5.5, I would say you definitely have to consider taking the over based on the projections, based on his last 3 games, based on this matchup. It looks like a really plus rebound situation here for Saddiq Bey. So there you go. Good morning to Epic Clips. He's liking Malcolm Brogdon over on rebounds. We'll talk about some of your favorite plays that you guys are dropping in chat. Thank you so much for leaving those in chat. Drop a like on this video if any of these player props are looking good to you. If you're seeing something you like, go ahead and leave a like. Trevor, good morning to you. Can you show or tell us some of your bet slips? I don't know if that's asking too much. Maybe past ones for reference. I guess. I mean, you want to DM me or something? I don't know how you want me to like show you that, but like, yeah, if you want to like DM me, I guess we could talk about that. I don't know what that, I don't know what my bet slips have to do with your bet slips, but okay, we could do that. Let's see what else we got here on the rebounds. Maybe we could look at some unders for rebound props here. We got Isaiah Stewart at 8.5 boards, 16.7% hit rate, which is kind of interesting because when you think of Isaiah Stewart, you think of a guy who is a high volume rebounder, typically been a pretty good rebounder over the course of his young career. I don't see Isaiah Stewart up on the board at the moment. Not seeing him up here for rebounds, so they're not giving us Isaiah Stewart at this low 16.7% hit rate. Daniel Gafford at 5.5 boards, currently at a 20% hit rate. But this one's interesting because PrizePicks, despite the low hit rate, has rounded him up to 6 rebounds. So at 5.5 boards, he has only hit this number 20% of the time. But I see why they're probably doing it. He's a minus 138 to go over. Let's open it up here and take a look. So in his last 5 games, 4, 4, 8, 6, and 4. So he's only hit 6 or more rebounds twice in his last 5 games. Most of these games, he's gone under 6 rebounds. 4 against Orlando, 4 against Memphis, and 4 against Toronto. So at 6 rebounds, it kind of makes me want to lean toward the under here. And maybe worst case, we end up in a push scenario, right? Let's look a little bit further into this prop. New Orleans Pelicans at the Washington Wizards. We'll go find Mr. Daniel Gafford here at 5.5 boards. So at 5.5 over the course of 10 games, he has only covered this prop in 2 out of 10. That's a 20% hit rate. Now, if we bump this up to 6 rebounds, which is where you can find him on PrizePicks, that hit rate now goes to 1 out of 9, just an 11% hit rate. So I would have to lean toward the under on this prop. He's averaging 4.7 rebounds per game over the course of the season, 4.7 in his last 10. Now, his rebounds have ticked up a little bit in the last 5 games, up to 5.2 rebounds. He's currently a minus 140 to go over 5.5, which is why PrizePicks has gone ahead and rounded this one up. So maybe it's the matchup here. Let's look at the matchup. New Orleans Pelicans, 16th in rebounds allowed. So this isn't in a crazy, ridiculous, like plus rebound matchup. Like New Orleans doesn't rank 30th in rebounds allowed. It's kind of a middle of the road matchup. 9th in offensive rebounds allowed, and defensive rebounds allowed, though, 22nd. So that is a plus here for Daniel Gafford if you're looking to take the over. We talked about the total on this game, just 208 points. Going down here, looking at his minutes, he's getting about 22 to 23 minutes per game in his last 5 games. If we go down to Daniel Gafford, we could look at the offensive and defensive rebounds for Daniel Gafford. Kind of get an idea. He does get a couple of offensive rebounds per game in most of the games that we see here. But let's go ahead and wrap this one up. We'll look at the projection for Gafford. See where Number Fire has him going today. They got him going for 6.1 rebounds. So yeah, worst case scenario here, it ends up in a push. I'd probably lean toward an underplay, and maybe you end up landing on exactly 6 rebounds and it's a tie, it's a push, and you're even Steven on that one. So with those out of the way, those being rebounds, let's go ahead and look at some assist props and take a look at those. Sethi says fade Gafford. Okay, fade Gafford. I got you. That could be a a fade Gafford play. Ken says basically he wants to see what you wager on your bets to want to see your bet slip. Yeah, I mean, everybody's got a different size bankroll, right? I would say that the majority of people that probably bet on player props or just bet in general are casual bettors. I think I fit in that category. Am I a professional? By no means am I a professional. Nor do I have the bankroll to wager hundreds or thousands of dollars on betting on player props. Guys, I'm a content creator. I'm struggling, scrapping, trying to make it in this industry. I don't have hundreds and thousands of dollars to be placing on bets. That's full transparency. I am a casual bettor, okay? I'm trying to make it here. Straight up. I'm not putting down car payments, house payments on player props every night. So maybe that gives you a little bit of insight as to where I land or where I stand. But I'm not out there wagering, major bucks on any of these player props. The most you might see me put down on a given entry, I guess you could say, maybe $20. $20. I'm not a professional or anything, guys. I'm trying to make it. Like the Island Boys. I'm just trying to make it. You know what I'm saying? If you know, you know. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the assist category here. We've talked a lot about rebounds. We've talked a lot about points, but we haven't talked about any of these dime droppers and seeing who are the ones that are dropping, the highest assist rate, who are the guys that are hitting at a low assist rate. So let's look at Brandon Ingram. Once again, you're going to see a lot of Brandon Ingram here, but I think it's a trap. I think it's a wait and see on Brandon Ingram in terms of points, rebounds, assists. I would wait. He's still working his way back into the lineup. I'm not feeling super confident on taking any overs, but then again, if you do have the cojones to do it, maybe taking some overs on Brandon Ingram ends up being a profitable way for you to go. I'm just more of a risk-adverse type of guy. I like to kind of wait and see. I want to see how things shape up before I start going crazy betting any overs on Brandon Ingram. We got Patrick Beverley up at 3.5 assists, a 70% hit rate for Pat Beverley. They're not giving us Patrick Beverley today on PrizePicks, unfortunately. Saddiq Bey, another guy we talked about for his rebound prop, but at 2.5 assists, 66.7% hit rate on Saddiq Bey. So that could be another way to go. Maybe you don't want to take Saddiq Bey's rebounds now that they've been moved up on PrizePicks from 5.5 up to 6. Maybe you feel more comfortable going at 2.5 assists here. Where he's covered 4 out of his last 5 games. So let's go ahead and take a look at Saddiq Bey at 2.5 assists. We've already talked about his rebounds. Maybe that's not the move. Maybe you don't want to go with rebounds. Maybe you feel more comfortable with Saddiq Bey versus Sacramento in the assist category. So we could take a look at that. Sometimes, you'll see a couple of good spots to take a player, and you really just have to try and figure out what is the very, very best, right? And that's what we're looking for here on Saddiq Bey's assists. So at 2.5 assists, guys, he's averaging 3.1 assists for the season. Very good. 3.2 in his last 10. Also good. 3.4 in his last 5. So we're seeing the assists trending upwards here for Saddiq Bey. At 2.5 dimes, though, he is a minus 134 to go under tonight against Sacramento. So that's kind of interesting. Overall at 2.5 though, 7 out of 10, a 70% hit rate. If we go down here against Sacramento, you can see they are like right in the middle of the league, 16th overall in terms of assists allowed per game. They're giving up about 23 assists per game. And then they rank 18th against opposing small forwards. If we look at the spread here, it's a 4.5 point spread in favor of the Sacramento Kings with 215 implied points. Saddiq Bey's minutes, they're up. 32.8 for the season, 33.5 in his last 5 games. So a little bit of an uptick for Saddiq Bey and his assists. So let's go see where they've got him projected today. Bey, 2.5 on PrizePicks. They got him projected for 2, according to Number Fire. So make of that what you will. These projections are just that. They're just projecting what could happen or what might happen in tonight's game. They are by no means the end-all be-all. So if you feel a different type of way based on like historical data, based on matchup, well, maybe these projections aren't all that, and you go against the projections here. Sometimes it ends up working out. I think a lot of people look at these projection sites and they use that to make their bets, and that could be a good way to go, but I'd say do a little more digging. Don't just rely on projections. You got to go a little bit further. Look into the game logs, look into the matchups, look into all those different things, and try to make the best educated bet that you can. All right, so with that one out of the way, let's take a look at some of these other assist props here. We got Marcus Smart sitting at 4.5 assists, 66.7% hit rate. You could get him at 5 assists over on PrizePicks, but man, they've rounded a lot of these really good props up. Dennis Schroeder at 4.5 assists, 61.5% hit rate, so almost 62%. 4.5 assists he's gone over in just 2 out of his last 5 games. That one doesn't look incredibly enticing to me. Let's move down and see some of the low hit rates. Maybe we can get some value there. Aaron Holiday at 4.5 assists, a 0% hit rate. So if you can get Aaron Holiday on your favorite prop betting site, probably lean toward the under. We don't have them up on PrizePicks, unfortunately. Spencer Dinwiddie at 6.5 assists, just an 18.2% hit rate. He's currently a minus 114 to go over. Let's take a look at Dinwiddie because we actually do have him up on PrizePicks at 6.5. You can see there right off rip at 6.5 assists, a 0% hit rate in his last 5 games. So he has not been going for 7 or more assists in any of his last 5. So let's go ahead and take a closer look. Again, the New Orleans Pelicans taking on the Washington Wizards. Spencer Dinwiddie sitting at 6.5, currently a minus 112 to go over 6.5. If we look at his full games, the season averages 5.7 assists per game, which is the same for his last 10. We look at his last 5, just 5 assists. So the 5.7 has now dropped down to 5 assists in his last 5 games. So the more recent sample size is not looking good here for Dinwiddie. He does have a couple of outbursts, we'll call them, where he went for 9 assists against Indiana, 10 against Atlanta. We don't have any previous game logs against New Orleans, at least not in his last 10 games. But overall, just a 20% hit rate. So he's not covering this 6.5 number with any great consistency here. The matchup, however, is a good one for Spencer Dinwiddie in terms of taking the over on his assists, as New Orleans ranks 24th in assists allowed per game, averaging 25.4 assists allowed to the opposing team. And then their point guard defense is 30th. If we look at his minutes, though, 28.2 minutes per game in his last 5. That's a downtick when you look at the last 10 and the full season averages. And we need to go take a look at a projection here and round this one off. Dinwiddie is projected for 7.1 assists. So they like him to go over 6.5. It would mark just the 3rd time he has went over 6.5 assists in the course of the entire season. So if you think that tonight he goes for 7 assists or more, then you might want to take the over on Dinwiddie again. That would be just the 3rd time all season long that he's actually covered 6.5 assists. So I don't know if I love that at all. Let's go ahead and look at some 3-point props. 73 of you in here. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for watching. Let's go ahead and take a look here. Mr. Mittens, where's the unsubscribe button? Come on. You got to love the Island Boys. If anything, they're just entertaining as heck. They can't rap a lick. They can't really sing either, but come on. They're entertaining. You got to at least give them that they are entertainment. Let's go ahead and take a look at these 3-point makes, and then we'll head over to the chat, see what you guys are liking, and look into a couple of the player props that have tickled your fancy this morning. Dylan Brooks again at 1.5 3-point makes. He's a guy that's we've seen across various statistical categories here as being a high hit rate guy. But again, keep in mind that he is just now re-entering the lineup for Memphis, so be careful with taking any overs on his props. We've got NAW, Nickeil Alexander-Walker for the New Orleans Pelicans at 1.5 3-point makes. He has covered this in over 78% of his games. He's currently a minus 180 to go over. Are we going to get him on PrizePicks though? No, we are not. So we cannot really talk about him. But if you could get him at 1.5 on your favorite prop betting site, go ahead and take the over, I would say, at 1.5 threes. Josh Giddey at 0.5 3-point makes, 75% hit rate. He's a minus 225 to go over, meaning they think he's going to make at least 1 3. Of course, we're not going to get him on PrizePicks either, unfortunately. Killian Hayes, 0.5 3-point makes, has gone over 72.7% of the time. Not getting him up on PrizePicks. So all you PrizePicks players out there, I'm so sorry that they're not giving us more of these juicy props. But again, they know what they're doing here. They're trying to mitigate damages and not let us make too much money. But, you know, you got to love them. They're keeping things competitive. Kemba Walker, 1.5, 66.7% hit rate. Not seeing any Kemba Walker up on the board, unfortunately. Maybe they'll add some of these props in later. Let's move down here and look at some of the low hit rates. Aaron Holiday, another guy we've seen a lot of on today's video. 1.5 threes. He has only hit this number in 8.3% of his games this season. Not seeing him up on the board. Zach LaVine at 3.5 3-point makes. We're not going to get him either. Unfortunately, he's not on the board, but he's just 15% in terms of hit rate. Spencer Dinwiddie, another guy, 2.5 3-point makes, has gone over in just 18% of his games. We've got him up at 2 3-point makes over on PrizePicks. So I'd probably lean toward the under on this prop. Maybe he ends up in a push situation where he makes exactly 2 3-pointers. But, you know, like this Mr. Mittens fella is saying here in chat, no Bradley Beal means more shots probably for Spencer Dinwiddie. He hit 3 against Orlando in his last game. So you're playing with fire if you want to take the under on this 2 3-point make prop for Spencer Dinwiddie. But yeah, I'm not seeing a whole lot of 3-point props with high or low hit rates on the PrizePicks board. So Darius Garland's been kind of hooping. You can maybe look his direction. 2, 4, 3, 4, and 2. So at the very worst, you end up in a push situation where he makes 2 threes. So, I mean, you could take the over on Darius Garland and hope for the best. Maybe he knocks down 3 tonight against Boston. That could be a move. But, yeah, overall, not really loving a lot of these 3-point props up on the PrizePicks board. What about Kyle Kuzma? No Bradley Beal around. Hey, there you go. Maybe we found a little gem here. Memphis, he hit 3 against Milwaukee, 6 against Cleveland, 3 against Orlando. Maybe you take the over here. He ends up banging in 2 or 3 of them, and you're in the money against the New Orleans Pelicans. But, yeah, you're going to have to dig a little deeper here on some of these 3-point props because they're not giving us all the goodies that we're seeing here on props.cash. But enough of that. Let's go ahead and head over to the chat, see what you guys are talking about here. I think we've dug in pretty well here as best as we can, and you know, tried to do our very best on Monday morning. They're going to be adding a ton more props, by the way, guys. At an 11-game slate, they're not done adding props. Going back up to the top here, looking at Kevin Sings, who says Dennis Schroeder over 17.5 points. Dennis Schroeder at 17.5 points. Typically, if you play on PrizePicks, you're going to see more point props than any other type of prop out there. Assists, rebounds, 3-point makes. They put typically a lot of point props and fantasy point props. So let's look at Dennis Schroeder, who has been on fire in 4 out of his last 5 games, dropping 20 against Dallas, 20 against Toronto, 38 against Milwaukee, and 28 against Cleveland. Do you think Dennis Schroeder wants a long-term contract, a big contract after he's done with Boston? I think he might be playing for the bags. So it looks like he's been hooping a lot here lately. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at Dennis Schroeder's point prop at 17.5, and maybe we can find a little bit of over or under action here, the best way to go. Now, he is currently a -120 to go under 17.5 points. So the money's coming in on the under on Dennis Schroeder, despite the fact that he's gone over in 4 straight games, and not just over by a little bit, over by a lot at 17.5. If we look at his season averages, 17.4 points, 19.2 points in his last 10 games, 24 points in his last 5 games. And the last time he faced Cleveland, he drops 28. So this is a back-to-back situation, another rematch here against Cleveland, where he just got done dropping 28 big points on him. If we look at the matchups here, though, Cleveland on paper looks kind of tough. You see a lot of red and yellow here. They ranked 23rd against opposing shooting guards. So props.cash has Dennis Schroeder classified as a shooting guard. I think of him as more of a point guard, but maybe he's serving more of that like combo guard type of role here for the Boston Celtics. But overall, pretty tough matchups here on paper, but that did not seem to phase Dennis Schroeder in the last game when he had 28 points. He has been playing about 36 minutes per game, had 35 minutes against Cleveland in the last game. If we look at his field goal attempts, 14 for the season, 15 for the last 10, 19 in his last 5, and he had 19 against Cleveland. So his field goal attempts are going up. So that is a great sign if we're looking to take the over on his points. So he got it done in the last game against Cleveland. Can he get it done tonight? Again, let's take a look at the projections for Dennis Schroeder. They've got him going for 15.9 points, so they think he's going to go under, fall short of going over at 17.5. If we round this up to 16, that's still short by 1.5 points. So be careful with Dennis Schroeder. I don't know if it's a lead pipe lock or anything like that. You might want to dig in a little bit deeper on that Dennis Schroeder prop. Kevin also dropping another one. Jonas Valanciunas over 18.5 points. Well, let's take a quick look at that one. 18.5 against the Washington Wizards. If you look at his last 5 games, done a pretty good job of covering the 18.5 point prop. But I feel like I've been seeing a lot of Jonas Valanciunas playing basketball lately. This might be a 3 games in 5 nights type of thing. Maybe fatigue is a little bit of a factor here for Jonas Valanciunas. 20 against Golden State, 22 against Dallas, 25 against OKC, 22 against Brooklyn. So, yeah, I mean, he played on the 8th, the 10th, the 12th, the 13th, and he's playing again tonight on the 15th. So he's been playing a lot of basketball lately. But we could take a look at a projection here for Jonas Valanciunas. 18.9 points. So if we round this up to 19, that's pretty close to what we need for him to go over, right? 19 or more points, and you take the over on Valanciunas, then you are in the money. He'll be matched up with Daniel Gafford tonight. Not really afraid of that matchup for Joe Val. So I could see the over on 18.5 points being a good way to go. Logan dropping one in the chat saying RJ Barrett under 15.5 points. Well, you know how I feel about RJ Barrett. I don't trust him. I just don't trust him. Let's go take a look at his point prop, though. RJ Barrett, 15.5 points, taken on the Indiana Pacers. Wow. His last 4 games have not been very good. 6 points against Cleveland, 15 against Philly, 9 against Milwaukee, and 2 against Charlotte. This is what I'm talking about. This guy is so unpredictable. That's why I don't like playing him on any given night. He had 20 against Milwaukee and then has just been in this rut the last 4 games. What do you chalk that up to? I don't know. Like, is there something going on with him that we don't know about? I mean, I have no idea how he could go from like hot at 20 to like so cold at 6 and even 2 points against Charlotte. This dude is one that I just don't like messing with. But let's take a look at his projection on this points prop. They got him projected for 16 points tonight, which represents an over against the Indiana Pacers. I'm staying away from it. You know how I feel about RJ Barrett, or maybe you don't, but in previous streams, told you, I just don't trust this guy. So I guess, yeah, I mean, maybe you lean toward the under if you're going any which way on it, but the projections think he goes for 16 points, and maybe he does. I mean, he has got 20 points against a tough Milwaukee Bucks squad, so you just never know what you're going to get with RJ Barrett. So that's why I kind of just stay away from him. What else we got going on here? Saying Dylan Brooks is impacting Desmond Bane's numbers, so it might be good to fade Bane as his numbers are cut. Yeah, I thought maybe Bane had done enough to really solidify a spot, possibly in the starting lineup, but looks like Dylan Brooks being back is going to impact Desmond Bane. I agree with you on that one. Mr. Minton says his picks are on fire lately. Let's win some money. Awesome. Good to hear that. Peyton says Grayson Allen over points. Mikal, I think I'm saying it right. I'm working on it. Bridges over points, and Blake Griffin under 1.5 threes has hit for me so much lately. Let's take a look and see if any of these props are up on the board today. Grayson Allen over on points. We'll start with that one first. Of course, Grayson Allen getting a lot more playing time with our friends Chris Middleton, Dante DiVincenzo on the bench still. Not seeing any Grayson Allen yet, unfortunately, on PrizePicks. Maybe we could look at Bridges. Not seeing any Bridges yet. And Blake Griffin under 1.5 threes. Not seeing any Blake Griffin up on the board yet. But those are some good ones to possibly keep in mind if they do add them later on in the day on PrizePicks. Craig says, guys, Tyrese Halliburton at over 12.5 points is a must play. I'm also taking Ja Morant over 5.5 rebounds. Yeah, we talked about Ja Morant over 5.5 boards, looking like a really good way to go tonight. Let's go find Ty Halliburton here for the Sacramento Kings. 12.5 points taken on Detroit tonight. 14 against Utah, 20 against New Orleans, 14 against Charlotte, 17 against Indy. Now he does fall short against OKC with just 8 points, but 4 out of his last 5, 80% hit rate lately of going over 12.5 points. We mentioned Harrison Barnes earlier, and his point prop looking maybe a little less confident than maybe this prop. Maybe Tyrese Halliburton's the better way to go. Let's go ahead and pull up a projection for Halliburton. They got him at 12.4 points, so he's right there in line with where PrizePicks has him at 12.5. So this one could go, he could go for 12 points, he could go for 13. Maybe he goes for 20 again like he did against New Orleans, but Ty Halliburton might be a good way to go here, according to our friend Craig. What else do we have here? Sethy says, it is a great day to cash. Hopefully it is. Monday, let's call it Money Making Monday. How about that? Money Making Monday, is that a new thing that we could start here? George says Halliburton over 12.5 points is worth playing. Okay. Markel, do we like Richaun Holmes over rebounds? Well, Richaun Holmes against Oklahoma City the other night absolutely crushed. He was all over the glass against the Thunder. Let's see if Richaun Holmes' rebound prop is a good way to look. 9.5 boards. He has gone for more than 9.5 rebounds in 3 out of his last 5. Not a terrible hit rate at 60%. Failed to cover at Indiana and against the Phoenix Suns. Not mad at it, though. He came pretty darn close. 9 boards against Indy, 8 against Phoenix. So most of the time, Richaun Holmes is an absolute beast. An absolute beast on the glass. Let's take a look at his projection today. He's at 9.7 projected rebounds. We round that up, call it 10, and I think we've got a decent play on our hands here. Richaun Holmes, maybe you go over on the 9.5 rebounds. I don't mind that, Markel. I do not mind that. Sethy's also liking the Halliburton over points play. Shadow says, who would you choose between Dinwiddie over points or Montrezl Harrell over points with Beal out? Well, I would think that Spencer Dinwiddie would benefit more from the Bradley Beal absence than Montrezl Harrell would. So just off the top of the dome, I would probably say Spencer Dinwiddie eats with Beal out. What's going on, T2 Nice? What's good with you? Thanks for joining this morning. Appreciate all 86 of you who are currently in here. If you could drop a like, hey, you helped your boy out here. Let me know that you guys are liking what I'm putting down on these live streams. I truly, truly appreciate it. Boston, top of the morning to you. Markel says, I like taking De'Aaron Fox under in 3s. I think it's safer. Yeah, that could be a good way to go too. We talked about going maybe under on De'Aaron Fox's points if you could get him at 21.5, but at 20.5, which is where he's at on PrizePicks, becomes a little bit more of a tricky situation. He's projected for 21 points today, but maybe he's got a point here. Going under on the 1.5 3-point makes could be the better look. 0 against Charlotte, 1 and 1 against Indy and Phoenix, respectively. 2 against San Antonio, 2 against OKC. So at the very most, he's going to make 2. And if you take the under and he makes 2, obviously that's heartbreak. But 3 out of his last 5 games, he's stayed under 1.5 3-point makes. So that could be the safer route if you don't want to take the points under on De'Aaron Fox. I like that, Markel. Not a bad way to go. Gio says Ricky Rubio over 12.5 points seems safe to me. What do y'all think? Well, Ricky Rubio obviously stepping into a much larger role with Colin Sexton out with the torn meniscus. Let's look at Rubio's game logs here recently. You don't think of Rubio as a scoring first point guard or a high volume field goal type of guy. He's more of like a setup guy, an assist type of point guard. But in his last 5 games, he's had some pretty good scoring outputs. 37 points against the Knicks, 20 against Washington, and 16 against Boston. So that's a 60% hit rate at 12.5 points. So yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. He's facing Boston again tonight where he just dropped 16 on him. So maybe he does it again. Maybe Ricky Rubio is good for 13 or more points in this rematch against Boston. So maybe you go there. Maybe you do. Let's go ahead and take a look at Ricky Rubio's points. We'll get you a projection on that. They got him at 11.5, putting him 1 whole point under his line on PrizePicks at 12.5. So once again, number fire, taking the more conservative approach here, thinking that the under is the way to go. Hashtag undergang. George says Saddiq Bey over 2.5 assists has been hitting. Yeah, we talked about that one a little bit. We talked about Rashawn Holmes rebounds at 9.5. Nick says, how about Jeremy Grant at 1.5 threes? Does that seem too low to you? Well, I'll be honest. I don't think of Jeremy Grant as a 3-point shooter, but let's look at his game logs and take a look. 2 against Philly, his former team, 0 against Brooklyn. Then he drops 4 threes against Houston. Definitely more of an outlier game for him there. 2 against Cleveland, 2 against Toronto. So he's not like crushing 1.5 3-point makes in a lot of these games. He's barely going over, right? Most of these games where he has went over, he's went over just, by 1 or 0.5, however you want to look at it. Made 2 3-pointers, right? So he's not like a high volume 3-point taker and maker. So he's going to have to be highly efficient with the looks that he does get. So it's going to be kind of put him in the same class as like a Robert Covington or a Bridges, one of those guys where they're not going to get a ton of looks from beyond the arc. So they got to make the ones count, the ones that they do get. So not loving that, but I guess you could go over on that prop if you wanted to. Remy says, good morning, guys. Good luck this week. Money, 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 money. Yep. Money, money, money. We got another Jeremy Grant submission here from Enrique. He likes Jeremy Grant over 4 rebounds. Jeremy Grant over 4 rebounds. He's at 4 rebounds on PrizePicks. Let's look at his game logs. 6 against Philly, 4 against Brooklyn, 5 against Houston, falls short with just 2 against Cleveland, and 5 against Toronto. So he's gone over 4 rebounds or 4 or more rebounds in 4 out of his last 5 games. So that represents an 80% hit rate. Not a terrible way to look at Jeremy Grant. Maybe you don't like his threes. Maybe you'd rather go to the rebound prop. He's projected for 4.9 boards tonight, guys. So that's almost 5 rebounds, putting him over. I would lean toward the over here, and I think at worst you end up in a push situation. Maybe he ends up with exactly 4 rebounds, but I think I like this one. Of course, we talked about liking Rashawn Holmes, the guy on the other side of this game, right? The Sacramento Kings is the opponent here for the Detroit Pistons. So maybe Rashawn Holmes' presence gets in the way of Jeremy Grant going for, 5 or more rebounds. We don't know. We don't know anything. We're just, trying to make educated guesses here, right? Kevin says, Daniel Gafford under 6 boards. Yeah, we talked about Daniel Gafford not being a very high hit rate guy at 6 rebounds. It's kind of interesting that PrizePicks bumped him from 5.5 up to 6 with such a low hit rate on his rebounds, but maybe they know something that we don't know here. I don't know. What else do we got here? Antoine wants to check out RJ Barrett's fantasy points. Well, we already talked about RJ Barrett being a pain in the you-know-what in terms of just any type of prop, but let's look at RJ Barrett's fantasy points. Maybe he's not scoring well, but he could be doing other things to get him over the 26.5 fantasy point mark. In his last 5 games, he's gone over in 1 against Milwaukee with 30.9, 33 against Philly. So he's really only went over 26.5 fantasy points in 2 out of the last 5 games. I'll get you a projection according to NumberFire here. RJ Barrett, 28 projected fantasy points. Again, I'm not touching any of this guy's props. He's just all over the place. I think you could tell by his points game log, his fantasy points game log, he is wildly, wildly inconsistent. So don't love it. Don't love it whatsoever. Malcolm Brogdon, Epic Clip says, Malcolm Brogdon over rebounds. Let's look at Malcolm Brogdon here as we start to kind of wind things down. We're reaching the end of our 1 hour time together on stream. Appreciate everybody that has tuned in this morning, though. Hopefully we've landed on some winning picks. 4.5 rebounds for Brogdon. Wow, he's been a little beast on the boards, hasn't he? Against Toronto back on October 27th, 5 rebounds. 8 against New York on November 3rd. Falls short against Denver on November 10th, but he comes back strong. 9 against Utah and 10 against Philly. So he's not just going over 4.5 rebounds with like 5 or 6. A lot of these games, he's got 8, 9, 10. The majority of them, he's just blowing 4.5 rebounds out of the water. So yeah, high hit rate in his last 5. Let's go ahead and pull up a projection for Brogdon. They got him going for 5.4 boards. So let's go back to the well here tonight. Malcolm Brogdon over 4.5 rebounds against the Knicks. Maybe that's a good look. It looks like a pretty good look on paper here based on the game logs and the projections, doesn't it? Yeah, not mad at it. Good one, Epic. Thanks for dropping that. What else do we got here? Evan Mobley over 7.5 rebounds. Mobley over fantasy points ended up working out for me once they ruled Al Horford out for the Boston Celtics. Evan Mobley's been a pretty good player this season in his rookie campaign. He's gone over 7.5 rebounds in just 2 games, though, so not a super high hit rate on this particular prop. 9 against the Knicks, 10 against Boston. Some close but no cigar games. 7 against Detroit, 7 against Washington. So I don't know, I don't know if I love this. It's not a super high hit rate prop. Let's pull up a projection though. Against Boston, they got him going for 9.2 rebounds. He had 10 against Boston in the last game. Does he get it done again? I think a lot of this has to do with if Al Horford is in or if he's out. He was out in the last game, which I think helped Evan Mobley greatly, as those two would be matched up against each other. Then you had Robert Williams matched up against Jarrett Allen. So I don't know if Horford has been ruled in or out just yet, but definitely check on the Al Horford news. And that would kind of be my guiding light with taking Evan Mobley props, with Robert Williams props, maybe even with Jarrett Allen props, but more so Mobley and Williams. I ended up going over on Robert Williams' fantasy points, over on Evan Mobley's fantasy points with Al Horford out in that last game, and it worked out for me. Both guys ended up hitting. So there's my 2 cents on Evan Mobley. Sethy mentioned Marcus Smart over assists. We touched on it briefly at 5 assists. I guess, you would probably lean toward the over based on his game log. 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 8 against Cleveland in the last game. So yeah, maybe you lean toward the over on Marcus Smart at 5 assists. Let's take a look at the projection for Smart today. He is at 5.2 assists, guys. 5.2. So maybe you end up in a push situation at the very worst here for Marcus Smart. What else we got? Got a few more minutes, guys. I'll try and take as many of these last minute questions as you guys can put into chat. John Collins over 15.5 points. I took John Collins over fantasy points yesterday. That ended up being a good move, as both him and Clint Capella looked entirely too low, and they both ended up going over. Collins, 15.5 points, has gone over in 4 out of his last 5 games, and he's going over by a lot here. 19, 19, then he's got 26 and 26. Falls short against a tough Utah Jazz team, though. Just 7 points against Utah. Let's pull up a projection here for Collins real quick. Collins sitting at 17.4 points today, so they do like him to go over against this Orlando Magic squad. Maybe if Wendell Carter Jr. doesn't suit up for the Magic, things get a little bit easier here for John Collins. But they are on a back-to-back, as are the Magic aren't on a back-to-back. They're in a 2 games in 3 night situation, I think. So be careful with Collins. It is a back-to-back situation. He will be going up against the likes of Mo Bamba and Wendell Carter Jr., 2 very long, athletic, tough, young guys. So should be a fun matchup seeing Collins and Capella against Carter and Bamba. Yep, George, we talked about Saddiq Bey's assists. Focus says, how about Richaun Holmes over on rebounds? We talked about them a little bit. No. Richaun Holmes over rebounds. Yeah, we talked about him at 9.5 being a possibly good look, and Isaiah Stewart being like an under rebound look. Mr. Mitten says Grayson Allen over on threes and Blake Griffin under on threes. Hits every time. Yeah. Hopefully we get that up on PrizePicks. At the moment, neither one is up, unfortunately. Craig says 32.5 over for Kyle Lowry if Jimmy Butler doesn't play. He's currently questionable. I think he's referring to 32.5 fantasy points. Injury news is one of the best ways for you guys to get an edge, find value out on the PrizePicks board versus PrizePicks is what I wanted to say. So yeah, maybe you go over on Kyle Lowry. He crushed the other day without Jimmy Butler in the lineup. 35.2, he ended up going over against Utah. 38.1, 40.7, and 51.4 in the 4 games that he's went over 32.5 fantasy points. So again, this is absolutely, positively hinging on Jimmy Butler's status. He's currently projected for 32.9 points, putting him over 32.5 just by a little bit. Not a lot, baby girl, just a little bit. What else we got here? Sethy, I mentioned, he said fade Gafford. It looks like Ken agrees. Fading Gafford might be the way. Fox over 20.5. Yeah, I'm not really sure if I love that Fox at 20.5 number. It seems like a trap to me, but maybe we go under Fox at 1.53. He's talked about that one a little bit. Kenji says, hey, what about New Orleans center Jonas Valanciunas rebounds? Yeah, Val rebounds could be a good way to go. Sethi says, you're still doing a great job with the show, CJ. Thank you so much. Trill Fate, next time he'll ask to see your Vax card. Oh, okay. Well, we're getting personal up in here. Remy, Karl Anthony Towns under 22.5 points against Phoenix. A bit risky, but tough matchup for him. Yeah, I think that one's going to really come down to is DeAndre Ayton in or out. If it's JaVale McGee, I don't mind Karl Anthony Towns against JaVale McGee. I like that matchup. Wouldn't be too mad about JaVale McGee, but we have to find out. Remy says, Saddiq Bey's fantasy points looking good, it seems. Let's take a look at Saddiq Bey real quick as I try to buzz through as many of these as I can in the last minutes here. 22 against Philly, goes under. 29.7 against Brooklyn, 34.3, goes over. Under against Cleveland at 13.4, and over against Toronto with 39.1. So when he goes over, he goes way over. So let's see if I could pull up a projection for Saddiq Bey for you. They got him at 28.1 fantasy points, putting him slightly, ever so slightly over the 27.5 you see over on PrizePicks. What else do we have here? Antoine says, I've learned that gut feelings sometimes comes into play. Yeah, if you have a hunch, man, typically I like to stick to the numbers. I'm a numbers guy. I like to try and find numbers that correlate. Is the money coming in on the over or the under? Are the game logs looking good? Are the projections in agreement with everything else? So I kind of look for all those ducks to be in a row, and then I feel a little more confident throwing my money out there. But Focus says he's an island boy. Well, I think we all are island boys at this point, just a little bit. Craig Fields, they are liking Dinwiddie because of the added usage because of Bradley Beal being out. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Enrique says he took Dinwiddie under. Mr. Mitten says no Beal, no deal on going under on Dinwiddie. Remy, yeah, Dinwiddie under is one of my favorite go-to bets, but I think he's going to fade it tonight. Deluxe Krang Plays says Josh Jacobs and Brandon Cooks for Tyreek Hill. Well, those are football players, but I don't know, man. Josh Jacobs and Brandon Cooks. It really depends on the rest of your team. I'd have to look at both rosters. Sethi says Dinwiddie gets a lot of his assists from Beal too. Interesting point. Pavel says Sabonis over 15.5 points. Yeah, I like Sabonis over 15.5 points. I don't think we will see him up on PrizePicks though. Oh, I lied. He's up there now. He wasn't up there before. Yeah, Sabonis over 15.5 points. That might be a nice little scoop. Let's see what he's projected for. 16.1. Okay. Yeah, I ain't mad at it. He drops 18 against Philly in the last game, 22 against Denver, 17 against Sacramento, 16 against Portland. Falls short against a tough Utah team, but he's got the Knicks tonight. So 15.5 for Sabonis, the over, looking like a good little number there. What else do we have here? Trill Fate says Halliburton. Yeah, we talked some Halliburton points. Over 12.5 might be the way to go. George, Devontae Graham points. Yeah, maybe. Brandon Ingram is back in the lineup for the Pelicans, so got to be careful with some of these guys, as obviously Ingram is going to be the number one usage guy on the Pels when he's out there. So be careful with Devontae Graham. I'd take the wait and see approach, see how the rotations, the usage, everything shakes out with BI being back out there for the Pelicans. Just be careful. What else are we talking about, chat? What else are we talking about? A few more minutes here, and I'm going to get up out of here, let you guys go lock in some entries. Gio likes Miles Turner over 32 fantasy points. Thinks it's a safe way to go. Yeah, maybe Miles Turner, who has been hitting more often than not at 32 fantasy points. You go back to that. He had 50 against Sacramento, 37 against Denver, 35 against Utah, and 44 big ones without Joel Embiid for the Philadelphia 76ers. So 4 out of his last 5, 80% hit rate at 32 fantasy points. Could be a good look for Mr. Turner. Let's see what the projections say. They say 35.7 fantasy points. So yeah, you could go over on Miles Turner and feel pretty good about putting your money out there. What else, guys? What else are we talking? Trae Young over 25.5 points. Trae Young's been hot lately. Trae Young has been hot lately. He's been playing a lot of games too. Maybe the fatigue factor kind of finally catches up to him. Against Orlando, though, we know Orlando's backcourt, not a very tough defensive backcourt or a tough defensive team overall. That's coming from an Orlando Magic fan. So Trae Young is projected for 22.3 points today, guys. A lot more questions in here than I have time for. Unfortunately, I'm going to wrap this thing up. We're over our 1 hour time limit together, but I appreciate everybody who tuned in. Thank you so much. If you have not liked this stream yet, let's do it now. Let's get over 99.5 likes like we've been doing in the majority of these streams, and appreciate you guys for supporting me. Hopefully we've landed on some winning picks, and I look forward to talking to you guys tomorrow morning. I'll be back at 11 a.m. Eastern time talking more NBA player props. Until then, this is CJ, guys. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.